Um, what if I told you that the absolute most dominant sound of the 2010s,
Oh, here we go.
no, seriously, a genre that captured like nearly half of an entire industry's market share was it was practically engineered, like the exact same way a fast food company designs a cheeseburger.
I mean, when you put it like that, it sounds a little dystopian, but...
Right. But just like picture this. It's the early 2010s. You turn on the radio, you hit scan, and suddenly you feel like you're trapped in this endless identical loop.
Oh, totally. The musical déjà vu.
Exactly. Every single song on the dial just seems to be about the exact same guy in the exact same pickup truck looking at a girl in the exact same cutoff jeans while they drink on the exact same dirt road.
Yeah, and you try to change the station, but the narrative just didn't budge. I mean, the drum loops were identical.
Right.
Even the specific brands of alcohol they were drinking barely changed from song to song. It started to feel less like a traditional radio broadcast and, more like you were inside this highly optimized audio simulation, one that was designed to just trigger a very specific set of dopamine receptors.
Which really makes you wonder, right? Like, how does an entire industry just spontaneously decide to make the exact same song at the exact same time?
Well, spoiler alert, it wasn't exactly spontaneous.
Right, and that is exactly the mission of our deep dive today. We are pulling from this incredible stack of sources, mostly centered around a really comprehensive Wikipedia breakdown of this specific musical subgenre.
It's a great breakdown, too.
It really is. So we're going to trace its meteoric commercial rise, unpack the incredibly rigid, just copy-paste formula that defined it, and examine the really intense, very public civil war that it ignited among musicians.
We're looking at such a fascinating case study here because, this story isn't just about guitars and drum machines.
Right.
It is really about what happens when a cultural formula works, well, almost a little too well, to the point where it just fundamentally breaks the ecosystem that created it.
Okay, so let's unpack this. What exactly is bro country?
Right, let's define it.
Looking at the definitions across our sources, is classified as a 2010s country pop subgenre. But what made it so jarring at the time was its DNA.
Yeah, it was a massive departure.
Huge. It heavily incorporated elements of 21st century hip-hop, hard rock, and electronica. And lyrically, it completely stripped away those traditional country themes, like heartbreak or hardship.
Wow, yeah, no room for sadness here.
Not at all. It was exclusively upbeat, laser-focused on a very specific set of images. So we're talking attractive young women consuming alcohol, partying, blue jeans, boots, and, naturally, pickup trucks.
Obviously. And, musically, it was a massive sonic shift for Nashville. I mean, they were bringing 808 drum machines and synthesized bass lines into a space that was traditionally reserved for fiddles and pedal steel.
Right, which was a huge shock to the system.
Totally. But a movement like that, it needs a name to really become a recognized phenomenon, right? And our sources trace the origin of the term to a very specific date.
August 11, 2013, right.
Exactly. August 11, 2013. A journalist named Jody Rosen actually coined bro country in an article published in New York Magazine.
And he was specifically profiling Florida Georgia Line in that piece, right? But he kind of cast a much wider net, didn't he?
He did, yeah. So he used the term to describe Florida Georgia Line's massive debut single, Cruise, but he also grouped in artists like Luke Bryan, Jason Aldean, and Jake Owen.
Okay.
Rosen was essentially drawing a circle around this whole new vanguard of male singers because they were completely reshaping the genre sound. And maybe even more importantly, they were reshaping its demographic.
Bringing in a much younger crowd.
Right, a younger, much more pop-oriented audience.
It is just wild to think a journalist just typing a phrase to describe a vibe could accidentally label an entire decade of music.
It really is.
But to understand why this term stuck so permanently, we really have to look at the sheer scale of its success. Yeah. Because we are not talking about a fleeting trend here.
Oh, not at all.
The commercial numbers are just staggering. Let's look at Florida Georgia Line's Cruise. That track actually became the best-selling digital country song ever.
It's unbelievable.
Over 7 million U.S. copies sold. 7 million.
That is just, yeah, that's wild.
And it sat at #1 on the Hot Country Songs chart for a record-breaking 24 weeks.
See, those aren't just hit numbers. Those are gravity-defying, entirely industry-altering numbers.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Cruise wasn't some isolated anomaly. If you just look at the data from 2013 alone.
Oh, right, the album sales.
Yeah, Luke Bryan, Florida Georgia Line, and Blake Shelton all had top 10 best-selling albums in the United States across all genres.
Wow.
And by the mid-2010s, industry research estimated that roughly 45% of country's best-selling songs were classified strictly as bro country.
Okay, 45%. I mean, when a specific sound commands almost half of the market share, the industry is just naturally going to stop treating it as art, right? And they're going to start treating it as a blueprint.
Oh, absolutely. It becomes a factory line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And reading through the sources, that replication became absolute parody. I was actually laughing out loud at the mention of this radio segment. KTCK had a segment called Fun with Country Music.
Oh, the checklist.
Yes. They quite literally created a checklist to prove how identical these songs were. To have a hit, you just needed to check off these specific lyrical boxes.
Let's hear them.
Okay. It was boots, alcohol, jeans, trucks, guns, farm equipment, the word girl, and a rural setting.
Oh.
If you hit those keywords, bam, the song was ready to ship.
It's so funny, but it really highlights how Music Row in Nashville had essentially industrialized the songwriting process.
Yeah.
I mean, they found a set of imagery that worked, and they just ruthlessly stuck to it.
But, let me push back on this idea that this was inherently sinister or just creatively bankrupt.
Okay, play devil's advocate.
Because is a highly engineered formula always a bad thing? When I was reading the breakdown of these elements, I just couldn't help but compare bro country to a fast food burger.
Oh, I like this.
Right. Because a fast food burger isn't hot cuisine, but it is scientifically designed by literal food scientists to perfectly hit your salt, fat, and sugar taste receptors.
Yeah, it's engineered to be delicious.
Exactly. And bro country did the exact same thing, just for our cultural taste receptors.
That is actually a highly effective way to look at it. You are optimizing for a very specific, frictionless user experience.
Right. And even some critics at the time recognized the validity of that experience.
Oh, yeah, they weren't all haters.
No. LA Times critic David Horsey actually defended the genre against its harshest detractors. He compared the appeal of bro country, this sort of overwhelming sense of reckless freedom, to the teen surfing songs of the Beach Boys in the 60s.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Or even the massive arena rock anthems of Bon Jovi in the 80s. He argued it taps into this universal fantasy of being young, carefree, and just letting loose on a Friday night.
And Horsey's defense really gets to the core of why popular music exists in the first place, right? Escapism. Especially coming out of the late 2000s recession, singing about cheap beer and dirt roads was a very accessible fantasy for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
But I think the deeper criticism of bro country wasn't necessarily about the desire to escape. It was really about the mechanical, incredibly cynical nature of the execution.
The copy-paste part of it.
Right. And the undeniable viral proof of just how mechanical it had become arrived in January 2015.
Wait, are you talking about the Greg Todd mashup video?
Yes.
Because that felt like the moment the curtain was just fully pulled back on the wizard.
It really was. The Todd mashup is a vital piece of this puzzle. So Greg Todd was an aspiring songwriter, and he released this video that completely exposed the genre's underlying architecture.
It's wild to watch.
It is. He took 6 massive hit songs released between 2012 and 2014. We're talking tracks by Blake Shelton, Luke Bryan, Florida Georgia Line, Cole Swindell, Parmalee, and Chase Rice.
Okay.
And he didn't just compare them side by side. He literally overlapped them, playing all 6 songs simultaneously.
And what blew my mind watching that video is how it sounded like one cohesive, seamless song. Like you couldn't even tell it was a mashup unless you were paying super close attention to the vocal tracks.
Yeah, it blends perfectly.
How is it even mathematically possible for 6 different songs by 6 different artists to perfectly overlap like that?
Well, because they share the exact same structural blueprint.
Wow.
Todd proved that all of these tracks utilized a very tight mid-tempo backbeat. And in pop music psychology, a mid-tempo beat, which is usually around 80 to 90 beats per minute,
Right.
is incredibly effective because it mimics a relaxed human heartbeat.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it gets your head nodding without demanding too much energy. And then you add to that a really quick 2-verse setup laced with a bouncy melody.
Just getting you straight to the hook.
Exactly. It's designed purely to rush the listener to a massive power chorus before their attention span wanes, or they hit the skip button. It was just a masterclass in standardized formatting.
So you have this dominant, just algorithmically perfect formula, completely hijacking the airwaves. Naturally, When a single template takes over that aggressively, a backlash is totally inevitable.
Oh, 100%.
But looking at our sources, this didn't just cause a few grumbles in, like, album reviews. It triggered what artists and critics literally dubbed a civil war within country music.
The genre fundamentally fractured, and the dividing line created this fascinating disconnect between the radio industry professionals and the actual audience.
Tell me about that.
Well, our sources highlight programmers like R.J. Curtis, who were coming out to the press saying they were completely exhausted.
Really?
Yeah, the DJs and music directors who had to evaluate, schedule, and play these songs all day, they were suffering from massive auditory fatigue because everything just lacked distinction.
That makes sense.
But the listeners driving in their cars simply weren't tired of them. I mean, they kept calling in, they kept requesting them, and they kept buying the downloads.
Which is the ultimate tension in entertainment, right? The curators behind the curtain are bored to tears, but the crowd out front is just screaming for more of the exact same thing.
Exactly. But what's fascinating here is that the curator fatigue eventually evolved into profound, highly publicized cultural critiques from within the artist community itself.
Right, the artists started speaking up.
Yeah. Traditional country legends realized they couldn't just criticize the drum loops anymore, so they started targeting the core messaging of the lyrics.
And the objectification of women really became the major battleground there.
Huge battleground.
Kenny Chesney actually went on the record with a really heavy critique. He complained that anytime someone sang about a woman in a bro country song, she was entirely reduced to a prop.
Yes.
She was always in cutoff jeans, sitting on a tailgate, drinking a beer. Chesney stated they were objectifying the hell out of these women.
And he wasn't the only one.
No. Brad Paisley vented very similar frustrations. He pointed out the staggering lack of female artists actually being played on country radio, while the male artists dominating the charts completely relied on cliché lyrics about tan legs on dashboards. He was practically pleading with his fellow male songwriters to just drop the tropes.
And, the internal critiques didn't stop at gender dynamics either. They expanded into highly complex, really socially charged territory.
Oh, right, the Steve Earle comments.
Yeah. The traditionalist artist Steve Earle offered a very sharp critique regarding the intersection of race and class in the genre.
Okay, unpack that for us.
Well, he claimed that bro country was essentially watered-down hip-hop created for, in his exact words, people who are afraid of black people.
Wow, that is heavy.
It is. And to drive his point home about musical authenticity, Earl added that rather than listen to bro country, he'd rather just listen to the new Kendrick Lamar record.
And we should note, for you listening, that we are looking strictly at Earl's personal commentary here, right? He's viewing the trend through his own lens of societal dynamics.
Right, absolutely.
But just bringing Kendrick Lamar into a conversation about country radio highlights exactly how deeply ideological this musical divide had become.
Yeah.
This was no longer just a friendly debate about acoustic guitars versus synthesizers.
No, not at all.
Artists were attacking each other's core identity and their authenticity.
And historically, when you attack a musician's authenticity, they are going to strike back.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the clapbacks from the bro country stars were absolutely fierce.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they took no prisoners.
They really didn't.
Blake Shelton just went on the offensive, calling the traditionalist critics old farts and jackasses who just sit around and complain but don't actually buy records anymore.
Which is a very dangerous game to play when you are insulting the architects of your own genre.
Yeah, bold strategy.
Very. And that comment prompted a legendary response from country music royalty. Ray Price, who, if you don't know, was an absolute pioneer of the genre going way back to the 1950s, he took to Facebook to respond directly to Shelton. Price said it was a shame he had spent 63 years in the business trying to pave the way for younger artists, only to be dismissed like that. Price essentially told Shelton, check back in 63 years and let's see if anyone remembers your music.
That is just a devastating comeback.
Brutal.
Shelton actually had to issue a public apology for that one. But, I mean, these feuds were popping up everywhere.
Oh, yeah, it was constant.
Zach Brown famously singled out a specific Luke Bryan track, publicly calling it the worst song he had ever heard.
Which is pretty harsh.
Right. And then Jason Aldean immediately jumped into the fray to defend Bryan, firing back at Brown on social media and stating plainly that nobody gives a shit what they think.
Aldean actually became one of the most vocal and articulate defenders of the entire subgenre.
He really leaned into it.
He did. He was very passionate about protecting his lyrics against the claims that they were inauthentic or pandering. He argued that he sings about drinking beer and hanging out in pickup trucks because that is exactly what kids in small towns actually do for fun.
Right, he was defending his reality.
Exactly. He pushed back against the critics by saying he can't sing about Wall Street because he doesn't even know where it is.
That's a great point.
He really felt the traditionalists and critics were being narrow-minded, entirely misunderstanding the reality of working-class small-town entertainment.
Which brings up such a fascinating twist of irony in this entire saga. Jody Rosen, the very journalist who minted the term bro country back in 2013.
Right, the New York Magazine guy.
Yes. He ended up openly regretting what the term became.
It is a classic case of the creator losing control of their creation. Rosen watched his descriptive, relatively neutral label get weaponized into this snobby insult that was just used by traditionalists to dismiss a massive swath of popular music. Rosen felt that a lot of the intense criticism aimed at bro country was actually rooted in thinly veiled class and regional prejudice.
He didn't mean it as a slur at all.
No, not at all.
In fact, if you read his original analysis, he actively praised the genre. Rosen loved that artists like Florida Georgia Line were pulling these cool R&B and hip-hop influences into country music.
Yeah, he saw it as evolution.
Exactly. He saw it as a progressive step that was increasing the diversity of the sound, which is like the exact opposite of how traditionalists like Steve Earle viewed it.
And that paradox right there is the beating heart of the bro country civil war. I mean, one side saw a cynical, reductive, algorithmically generated formula that demeaned women and stripped the genre of its soul.
Right.
But the other side saw and genuinely felt they were creating a modern genre-blending reflection of their actual lived experiences.
It's so subjective.
It really is. But the debate eventually outgrew magazine interviews and Facebook comment sections. It evolved into a literal musical battleground.
Yes. This is honestly my favorite part of the story. The radio rebuttal.
Oh, it gets so good here.
Artists just stopped writing angry tweets and started using the airwaves themselves to fight back. The dueling songs that hit the charts in 2014 are just incredible to look back on.
The girl songs.
Yes. On one side, you had the female duo Maddie and Tay. They released their debut single, Girl in a Country Song, which was this massive, incredibly sharp critique of how women were portrayed as silent, objectified props.
They did not hold back.
Not at all. They literally called out the cliches by name, completely rejecting the fantasy of being the girl in the cutoff jeans on the tailgate.
But then in the exact same month, which just reveals how wildly split the audience was.
Oh, this is crazy.
Right. Country singer Maggie Rose released a track called Girl in Your Truck Song, and she took the complete opposite stance of Maddie and Tay.
It's wild.
Rose unironically praised the bro country genre, singing that she actually wanted to be that girl in those songs. She was actively embracing the very fantasy that critics were trying to dismantle.
It is wild that radio programmers were just spinning both of those songs at the exact same time.
Literally back to back sometimes.
But the pushback wasn't just coming from up-and-comers trying to make a statement either. Mainstream, deeply established artists dove straight into meta-satire.
Yes.
Brad Paisley, who we mentioned earlier, was highly critical of those tailgates and tan legs tropes.
Right.
He released a song called 4WP. It was designed as a heavily cliché, totally tongue-in-cheek bro country anthem.
It's so fun.
But the absolute most brilliant part, right in the middle of it, he sampled his own 2003 hit, Mud on the Tires.
It was a masterful stroke of self-awareness. I mean, by sampling his own older song about trucks and mud, Paisley was winking at the audience.
Yeah.
He was basically saying, hey, I kind of started this lyrical trend a decade ago, but I also know how ridiculous and out of hand it has become. And that frustration wasn't just felt by the singers, The songwriters in the trenches were losing their minds.
Oh, I bet.
Brent Cobb, who is this highly respected writer who actually penned hits for artists like Luke Bryan and Miranda Lambert, he released a satirical track titled Yo Bro, purely out of exhaustion.
He just had enough.
He was just tired of the endless list of cliches he was contractually expected to pump out.
See, the moment you have your own hit makers, like the people catching the checks writing parodies of the genre they work in, you know you have hit a massive cultural tipping point.
Oh, for sure.
And when the musicians paved the way with satire, the comedians immediately stepped in to finish the job. They took the formula and stretched it to its absolute absurd limits.
And comedic intervention is always a highly reliable metric for cultural saturation.
I'm definitely...
You had the comedian Bo Burnham releasing Country Song, pandering, which mathematically and just ruthlessly dissected the pandering nature of the lyrics.
That's brilliant.
It exposed how wealthy artists were adopting these rural affectations just to sell records.
Then you had comedian Ben Hoffman, who went so far as to create an entire raunchy, satirical alter ego named Wheeler Walker Jr.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he didn't just release a song, he released full albums purely to mock the stereotypical modern country tropes. And the joke has incredible staying power, too.
It's still going.
Yeah. Even as recently as 2023, a popular YouTube channel called There I Ruined It. It released a parody titled Got a Beer in My Beer, which just perfectly distilled all the nonsense of the era into this hilarious 2-minute joke.
See, if we connect this to the bigger picture, what we're observing here is the classic, unavoidable life cycle of a cultural trend.
Okay, break that down.
Well, it always begins with innovation, in this case, mixing hip-hop beats with country themes.
Right.
That innovation leads to massive commercial success. That massive success breeds relentless replication by the industry.
The factory line.
Exactly. Replication slowly hardens into a rigid formula, and eventually that formula becomes so instantly recognizable that it becomes a target for parody.
Which is where the comedians come in.
Right. And once a genre is easily and successfully satirized by outsiders, it is forced into an ultimatum. It either has to die or it has to radically evolve.
So what does this all mean for our deep dive? Did bro country just, pack up its cut-off jeans and die in 2015 when the parodies peaked and the radio fatigue fully set in?
Based on the trajectory outlined in all our sources, it absolutely didn't die.
Okay.
It evolved. The traditionalists might have won a few moral victories in the press, and, this specific lyrical obsession with tailgates and dirt roads eventually faded from the charts.
Thankfully.
Yeah. But the actual sonic foundation of bro country permanently changed the landscape of Nashville. I mean, the hip-hop drum loops, the electronica flourishes, and the R&B vocal cadences it introduced, they didn't go away.
They became the new normal.
Exactly. They paved the way for an entirely new generation of artists like Sam Hunt, Thomas Rhett, and Cole Swindle.
Right. They kind of picked up the baton.
They did. These artists took those genre-blending elements, but they pushed them into new, less cliché, and frankly, more interesting artistic places.
It is such a great reminder for you listening right now. Whenever you are consuming your favorite media, whether you are shuffling a playlist on your commute or binge-watching a new streaming show or going to the movies and you notice a trope or a cliché that makes you roll your eyes, you aren't just being a cynic.
No, not at all.
You are actually witnessing the live, real-time tension between an industry's winning commercial formula and the deeply human need for artistic evolution.
It's a constant tug of war.
Yeah, it really is. The industry will always want to bet on the safe, proven blueprint, but our brains eventually, inevitably, demand something new.
Which raises an important and maybe slightly unsettling question to leave you with today.
Oh, I'm ready.
If bro country was the ultimate algorithmically perfect musical formula for the 2010s engineered to completely dominate our attention and our wallets, what hyper-optimized genre-blending formula is quietly taking over our playlist right now, without us even realizing it?
Oh, I love that thought, because you really never know when you're going to turn on the radio, hit scan, and realize you are trapped in a brand new loop of deja vu.